And I believe we are officially live. Awesome. Welcome to another episode of the Union of the Unwanted, live streamed every other Monday on our YouTube channel for the time being, but we do also post it on Rumble. So please also subscribe to our Rumble channel. You can find all those links at theunionoftheunwanted.com. And then the audio is available on all the places you can find audio. So that's it for now. We're also on some social media platforms and all that stuff. You can also find links to all the hosts and co-hosts stuff on theunionoftheunwanted.com, merch, and more. So definitely check that out. And today we have a great panel. We got some people that I'm sure are going to be dropping in and out, and tons of different people from different parts of the world and different perspectives. And that's exactly why we like doing this show, is because we bring a lot of different people from different perspectives and different parts of the world to kind of brainstorm and share ideas and challenge ideas and whatnot. So that's what we're going to do today. There's obviously always something to talk about. I feel like every other Monday is almost too much time between episodes to get through all the topics that are making headlines at the moment. But I mean, is there something that you guys? I know I briefly brought up. Free speech obviously is a huge part of what's going on in the world right now with people discussing it. This show was kind of put together. The origin story is kind of revolves around free speech because we came together to kind of talk about all the things we were dealing with in regards to censorship and whatnot. So we could start off there. I'm curious on, because a lot of you guys I haven't talked to since the Charlie Kirk assassination. I'm kind of curious on everybody's take on it and how we could respectfully agree or disagree on who's behind it or what's going on. But I am really curious on everybody's take on that. Is there something specifically you guys would like to hit on
There's
first?
also the autism thing that just dropped just now about with Trump and Kennedy saying that it's um that it's Tylenol and it's some of the vaccines, which I'm getting crap
Kicked
now
off
because
YouTube right away. First 5 minutes. Let's go. Yeah.
oh, okay, we can't talk about that. I
Nice
mean, it's
kidding.
literally in the news.
No, we
I mean,
can't.
I'm messing
I
with you.
know we're all old school. We have like weird battle scars from that. I mean, we can't talk about that. That's crazy.
So I'd like to expand on that because one thing that so right before the Charlie Kirk hearing, like days before, there's a couple things that I feel like the Charlie Kirk assassination kind of railroad. That it was a busy week because you had the UAP hearing, but you also had the vaccine vax versus unvaxxed hearing the same week. That study was by Dr. Paul Thompson. I always William Thompson and Paul Thomas, right? I always confuse the two doctors. But Paul Thomas was he had the biggest YouTube pediatrician YouTube channel. He was a huge celebrity online, dealt with kids at his office. I believe it was Oregon or California, somewhere in the West Coast. At his office, he was open to kids getting partially vaccinated, staggered, thing, and well, I just got a message. Sorry. Staggered schedule. He was open to just about everything and anything. So they basically hit him up and said, "Hey, would you be a part of the study with vax versus unvax? Because we can look at all your data from your office, your pediatrician's office, and look at all the kids who get partially vaxxed, fully vaxxed, staggered,
Facts.
but yeah, and look at all that data and get a good idea of like, what do we see? Do we see any correlations? And of course, what happened to Dr. Paul Thomas, it showed that consistently, the more vaccines you got, the consistently sicker you were, more likely to be sick, autoimmune, allergies, all those type of things. And then what do? They pull his license, even though he didn't look to do the study. He was actually contacted to do the study, and then they pulled his license, and then that's when he was going doing a bunch of podcasts, kind of telling his story. He was on my show, he was on many other shows, and it was that study that what is it? The ICANN organization attorney Siri, I think is his name, was talking about at that hearing. So that happened that like literally that Tuesday, I believe, before the Charlie assassination. So it seemed like that completely was forgotten. Like it was supposed to be like a huge deal because publicly they're going to discuss that this is like solid proof that vaccines do have a link to all these health issues. That was completely forgotten. Other thing that was forgotten, Carlson was going around doing interviews on his 9/11 documentary, and he was, obviously him being a mainstream face and voice, a lot of mainstream people were finally starting to entertain the idea that maybe, there's more than meets the eye. Well, that documentary, which was part one, was supposed to be released on September 11th, was completely forgotten about, and I don't think was released. And it hasn't been released till this day. I believe that he did put something on his website for a future date that he's going to release it, but he was picking up some steam doing those interviews. So those are just a couple things that all happened in one week that, again, like, I don't know if it was coincidental or whatnot, but Sam, you got some opinions?
Well, I'm getting murdered right now because I go, yeah, it's Tylenol, totally, and not heavy metals. And, Trump came out and said it's the combination. I I'm a little skeptical that's a combination.
Well, not
But
combination, various, right?
yeah, yeah.
Well,
The
explain that to me, which I'm open-minded to hearing if I'm wrong about stuff, but I think it's the vaccine. That's just me. I think.
It's because of the liver. Tylenol, they had taken, well, one, there had been 8 contaminated cases and they took all the Tylenol off the shelves. So there was the comparison of how ironic, because they didn't do that with the jib jab. And then it's known that when you take Tylenol, it just tanks the liver. And it's all, I'm personally allergic to the sulfa, but so it's a 2-1 punch. And it also takes away from the full on focus on the vaccine. I want to say to Ricky's point that it's part of the way they make the sausage and the way they leak their disclosures, that they can say the truth is out, but then there's a distraction. And it's like, did we really need a vaccine study to show who's healthier? No, we don't. But however, then they have this doctor that is the scapegoat, loses his license, and it sets an example for others to be too concerned to speak out against Rockefeller medicine.
Sam, did you hear him discuss it? Did you hear Trump's?
I watched clips of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched clips of it. He totally said, don't shoot your kids up. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I'll take the L on that. I'll accept that. Maybe I was wrong on that it is Tylenol, and that's just who I am. I'm never going to tell you I'm going to be right about everything. I'm open-minded to all this new data, but I'm glad that they're saying it. And I think that's great. And I'll take the L.
But I'm not saying that Tylenol is the cause for autism personally. I would agree that it's the jab. It's just that it's known when you're looking at vaccine injured children and you're doing their intake, because I've spoken to many. I have also a friend whose children, that the Tylenol really like kicks it in, because it doesn't allow for the liver to detox whatever the fuck is in there.
All right. I'm down. I'm totally down.
I think the important part is that we really need to have these discussions, like open transparency about what everything does. There's never a one size fits all. Right now, with what I'm going through, I'm really leaning on Miriam to help me out, and I would consider it to be more, and correct me if I'm wrong, Miriam, functional medicine. I think, getting to the root causes of what's going on. It's very clean, but I'm also on prednisone right now. And I'm very thankful that it's out there. But I would honestly tell you that, I don't want to stay on prednisone for a long time, but in some situations it's necessary. So when it comes to our medicine across the board, we just need complete transparency. However, there seems to be an industry, big pharma, that's just pushing this one size fits all. We got this vaccine. Everybody get the vaccine. There might be situations where a vaccine is needed for a certain type of person. But until we change this whole situation, and I agree. I mean, and I see Miriam shaking her head no, because at the end of the day, the thing that should have been discussed when we're going through COVID is that natural immunity will always trump vaccine induced immunity whatsoever. So with that not being in the forefront and them saying you got to take this, you have to take this, that's why we ended in the quagmire we're in.
Also, and to your point, like using the prednisone, as long as you're using these band-aids and you have a more holistic map, but these doctors don't even get, they get less than 25 hours of nutritional education. So it's just a faulty paradigm. And then if you're looking through that lens, you're not going to get, again, functional medicine is looking at the root, even going back to conditions when your mom had you? Like, were you vaginally born? Were you breastfed? Did you grow up on antibiotics? Like, you look at the person holistically because it ends up being like a whole variable of things. And then you get to the root.
Yeah.
This
And
is
I
a
learned
huge
on this
step,
show
though.
here, Union of the Unwanted, when you're talking about a doctor study, like in medical school, they don't even talk about vaccines. They had like
Yeah,
20 minutes of studies
it's
on vaccines.
so
It's not even,
crazy.
They don't even tell me about it. Yeah.
It's so crazy, dude. It is
I think this
so
is a huge
nuts.
step, though. I mean, this is a big step. I mean,
Again,
they put it out there. I don't think they can do much more than this. I mean, if you would have told me 5, 10 years ago that this was actually going to happen, I would have said there's no way they were going to be able to talk about vaccines and autism in front, like actually the president being able to talk about it with Kennedy at his side. I mean, it's a huge. I think this is a huge step forward, even though it's somewhat like clouded by the Tylenol. I think that he got enough out there that it's out there.
but I'll even take that. I'll even say that my reaction was wrong and that we should be celebrating this
What was
little
your reaction?
victory. My reaction is that they're trying to say it's more Tylenol
Oh, yeah,
than it
yeah.
is the vaccines, and maybe
Yeah.
my reaction to without actually watching the video based on just a history of knowing all this
Yeah, yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
that I was wrong. I'll take the L.
Oh, that's a
I don't
normal
think it's a big
reaction. I think-
a victory at all. You know what I'm saying? The bar is set so low. If you're going to pull their immunity, it'd be one thing. Pull their liability, then we're talking a victory. But they still
Yep.
have the protections from the government. So right now, it's more lip service than anything else. But yes, if we're
It has
talking
to
about it in the
count.
public discourse, I guess that's a
It-
small victory.
It is because it is in the collective and they have to address it. So this is their way of addressing it. I want to say for the record that before Trump was president, that I saved all of his tweets having to do with autism. And there was argument that Barron was vaccine injured. So it's like also with RFK, I mean, his voice is like that because of a vaccine injury. And so they're well aware, and it's not like they're making it seem that they're few. Like, who is living under a rock today that doesn't know the Rona jib jab harms people?
50% of
Boomers.
Canadians, 50% of Canada.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude.
Boomers.
Still Americans out there. They still have their
Boomers.
liability protection. You still
Boomers.
Pfizer commercials all over NFL Network. You got
It's
Kelsey going, I
crazy
got
to
my
me.
vaccine and my flu jab in one shot. So it's still out there.
It's crazy,
It's
dude.
part of the culture now. Come on, the celebs were dressed up in injection needle.
And now they're doing a satanic ceremonial wedding with Mr. Pfizer and Zena LeVay herself. So
It's so crazy,
What?
dude.
And not to just bag on Donald Trump, but a month ago he was still bragging about Operation Warp Speed. I mean, it was like a month ago, so it's
Yeah.
you say one thing but you do another. I want to see the actions follow the words.
That's what the tongue is of the snake, is split talking out of both sides of your mouth.
yeah.
Well, I definitely I see both perspectives, but to say that we haven't made some ground, I think would be I think we'd be blind to ourselves, and I think we'd be rewriting history. Because if you look at like when I remember not that when I had Del Bigtree on the show, that those shows used to get censored on iTunes. I know Graham when he had Del and one of them. Right, with the conspiracy farm guys, he did a whole
Yep.
debate. I mean, that stuff was so taboo, anything that went against big pharma. And the fact that like you can have a discussion with your neighbor, you, like literally I could go out in the street and have a conversation with anybody and they'll at least entertain the idea. I think we are making baby steps in the right direction. Now, I don't think it's going to be overnight. I think to change the psyche of the consensus of the majority, it's going to take time, but we are getting there. And I think, like I said, the fact that people are even the normies are even entertaining it. I mean, do you know how when my kids are 10 and 8, 9, my daughter just turned 9. I mean, the fights I got with people, family members, relatives, my in-laws, my own family members, like over not vaccinating my children. This was like, over 10 years ago when my wife was pregnant with our first child. Like it was insane. I couldn't even have the discussion. Every discussion was a heated discussion. Now those same people I can actually talk to about. And I always tell them the same thing. Like some of them even feel guilty fighting with me about it. And I say, hey, you're only as good as the information you have access to. Your decision making and your perspective was based on propaganda, manipulation, and force feeding you one narrative. I'm like, so you could only make decisions and have a perspective based on that bad information.
Well,
Well, Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say the key is to be open. And if today, still in 2025, you run into someone that thinks that it was safe and effective, then there is a bifurcation going on, I believe, on this planet, and people who are tied to materialism and people who are more on a spiritual path, a holistic path that see beyond the veil of bullshit.
I wonder if the Rudolf Steiner quote about the vaccine that severs your consciousness. I wonder, he was talking about that 100 years ago. I wonder if that's what happens if you've had all of them.
Yes, it is.
Because there seems to be a detachment for some people, and it in personality shifts, or they get irritated easily, they black out in certain ways, and I just wonder if they didn't accomplish what he was talking about.
I've written a lot about this on my Substack and showed the science versus the scientism of the VMA2, the spike down cascade to the VMA2, to histamine, to memory. I've had shows about it, and I mean, I have informal polls, and I say, can't you tell when someone now is not everybody, because they staggered, like I said,
Right. Yeah.
but
yeah,
you could tell there's something void.
Something off.
It's like Westworld, dude. Like season
Yeah.
4.
Yeah, it's not every person every time, of course, to be fair. It's it's hard to really quantify, but you know it when you see it, and it's something's a little off, and it's like a photocopy of a real person who is just a little off.
It's
But
very
it's
uncanny.
noticeable.
The thing that still bothers me, though, is that we can have discussions about it. What I think the final line when it came to the COVID shot for children, I believe, is that it's no longer recommended, or it's recommended, but you're allowed to have a discussion with your doctor first, right? Like that was the wording they used on it. They still have their liability protection. And when you control the narrative, just very much like mainstream, like we're going to have conversations on independent media, but we're suppressed. They're lifted up. They can still control the narrative. And that's what's going on in Big Pharma. They still control the narrative. The majority of doctors are going to still do what they're told to do. They're still going to push these shots because that's what they're told to do. They're still having a hard time getting ivermectin out there. We still have to go around the hurdles. So that's the big problem right now. We still have this huge roadblock in front of us where the narrative is still being controlled by Big Pharma.
Yeah, but
Yep. Not only the censorship, but they can buy their way out. Big Pharma can buy their way out of a problem. Even when they get caught, they get cold busted with a toxic product.
Yep.
They can buy it off the shelves, and they can change the name, and they can buy off the FDA or whoever they need to, and put a new label on it, new name, usher it right back out to us. So I have a big problem with it's the deceit, and that we can't speak the truth without being
Well, this has
censored.
been
I think
happening.
it's just across the board. It's bad.
We've been dumbed down, genetically modified for a really long time. So if we really look at what are these poisons, what is the attack against its consciousness? So we're all, like, to what Ricky was saying, if someone is open-minded and they don't have the answers that they can do, only all of us we've raised our consciousness, and that's what they're attacking with all of these poisons. And I think what's happening specifically now under the age of Aquarius is an opportunity to raise our consciousness, and the organic is being replaced with the synthetic, and the next generations will not know what is a divine spark versus an AI, whatever the fuck doll or something. Like, seriously, it's happening before our very eyes.
You can't, Miriam, you can't research too far without getting to the realization that it is a spiritual conflict. Why attack people's ability to elevate consciously and spiritually? Why do all the toxins seem to keep people down in that way? I mean, it's just, if you're genuinely curious and you explore it to the ends, that's what you're going to find. That's what everybody that I know that's really curious and genuinely open is finding. So it's stunning, and there's a time where the veil's being lifted for us all to go, whoa, hang on a minute. They're up to something, and it looks like they're really trying to be a Dr. Evil character out there.
And I'm not
I thought
trying
they
to
were
make
going to at least nip
excuses.
the low-hanging fruit, right? Like when it comes to election integrity, when people say to me, Pasta, what's one thing we can do right now? Get the low-hanging fruit that would help with elections to get actual grassroots for the people, by the people candidates into office. I say we got to eliminate ballot harvesting right off the bat. Get rid of that. I thought they were going to be able to do it. Maha had set their targets in on this. This is something that Kennedy had talked about, is let's pull the commercial ads. Let's get rid of the ads the way we did when it comes to smoking and nicotine, whatnot. And the only thing they had to do is make amends and now list all the symptoms. But it's argumentative what the symptoms actually are. And, they can just do that fast voice. This may cause diarrhea, bloating, blah, 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 and get it out there and still have your commercial aired. And it's programming our kids and programming our people. And these are drugs that you can't even, your doctor has to write you a script for them. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean,
well that's
we didn't
just
even
the
get the
mechanism.
low-hanging fruit.
That's the mechanism to get pharma funding into the media, right? It's not really about the ads. It's about that's the way they pay the media. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
I agree with you on that, but I'm not trying to make excuses for the timeline here at all. But this is like I feel like this is a 5 or 10 year kind of process of dismantling the web of pharma and how deep it is. I mean, this is like root based stuff. So I
But
think
Graham, don't you think it's going to change when they put
the Overton window has to change enough for these big changes to happen? I think people will lose their shit. Half the country is in the paradigm where this is all the science, this is the medical stuff, all the doctors. Like, you can't just turn that tap off instantly.
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean,
but don't you think, Graham, that just like the whole thing when we're out of the WHO now, right? The America's out of WHO. Once Gavin Newsom gets back in, everything that's been done for this administration will be undone, and they'll just keep playing footsies, going back and forth, and everything that was set in motion to say, okay, now we have a clear path. 10 years down the road, we can really take a shot at big pharma. But here comes Gavin Newsom back into the WHO, back with ads on TV.
But that's part of the dialectic. It's like that. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. It's like ping pong, overtone, but it still goes back to consciousness. And at this point, personally, it's like people have made their beds and they need to sleep in it. It's either you're escaping the matrix and you're going really like seeing that we are just consciousness, and we were tapped into our divinity, and now we're so dumbed down, and there's another reset, I think, in motion. Who knows?
There's a whole movement. There's a whole movement in Canada. Speaking of the consciousness, right? This is why I think it needs to everybody needs to start. Not everybody, but the window has to shift, because in Canada there's a big pushback on, oh, we're going to follow the science here in Canada, since the States, like, everything is about the States being the big bad evil, not following the science. And that's just pushing us to, like, I can't imagine them, turning off the tap of vaccines, or even deleting the COVID vaccine. Like, people will freak out. It's unbelievable how bad it is in Canada right now.
Well, freedom of choice, that's the thing. Like, and that's why some of the anti-vaxxers say, oh, we're not anti-vaccine per se. Like, people should have the right, like, if you want to smoke, if you want to buy a handle of vodka, go ahead. But, like, just get all the information out there. And that's the thing. Like, if you believe pharma and the people who've been fined more than any other industry in the world and is consistently lying about the products, if you want to take their products, that's fine. But the thing is, like, they make it's almost like when people go back and they say, oh, we never forced you to get the COVID vaccine. It's like, no, you're right, you just inconvenience our lives so much that we had no choice. And you gave us such anxiety, and you sheltered us from the rest of the world for so long that we would do anything to get our lives back.
Forced OSHA to court and divided families and all that
It's
shit.
coming, and it's happening again, but with the economy, with the digital currency, with everyone. Like, I speak
The real IDs.
a lot of people. There's a lot of people struggling financially.
A lot. I see more homeless people, more alcoholism. I see more young people dying. I see people in their 50s are dying left and right.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we were all saying this during COVID, like, the long-term effects of the COVID lockdowns, the psychological effects of isolating people when we're, everybody knows we're social creatures, all the anxiety of the people who actually believe the news and the media, who are getting this counter every single day and saying, don't touch anything. And I mean, I would see kids out, and if they touched anything, or if their mask came down, their parents would lose their shit. And I'm just like, imagine the anxiety that kid is living in next to these adults who are just freaking them out about everything. It's insane. So, like, of course there's people that were just barely making it, before COVID, and then COVID was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was the end of the road for them. They just, they finally had enough. They finally, they're just hanging on. And now with that extra, some people who were like depressed, people who hated their job, maybe they're in a relationship with a lot of friction. They're trying to make it work. Maybe the stresses of bills and debt were catching up to them. And then COVID was just the last straw. And I think now we're starting, like, some of those homeless people, some of these violent acts, these were those people. These were the people who were like tiptoeing the line, just barely keeping it together. And then they got pushed and nudged over the edge. And to pretend that like just the COVID vaccine, the health effects of that are the only backlash we're getting from that whole era. I mean, it was years and years and years. I mean, Trump got shit for just saying like, "Hey, I'm going to open up the country by this holiday," and people were like, "Oh no, you can't! Everybody's dying, and we're all gonna die, and we're all like." Some people actually believe that stuff. Some people were actually believing that, like those video clips of Chinese people dying in the streets and just piles of bodies on each other. They thought that was going to be reality. And yet there's no accountability for any of this. And that's the thing. Like, somebody said it, and it's absolutely true. Big Pharma doesn't put these commercials on TV because they think they're necessarily going to sell more. Sometimes they do, and I think in some cases they probably do. But the important thing is, and John Leake, who wrote a book with Dr. Peter McCullough, he's been doing the rounds, and they have a new vaccine book. And something he said on my show, and he's been saying on a lot of interviews, is they put those commercials on TV to control the narrative. Because now everybody on those stations, everybody on those shows, their salary, their vacations are paid by Pharma. So they control. They have them by the balls, and that's the reason. It's not just because they want to sell this product directly to the customer, which is what they're doing. And I forget, I think it was Bill Maher who said when people are going to their doctors asking for the drugs, your doctor turns into your drug dealer. Because basically you're not a doctor anymore, you're a drug dealer, because that's what you do. Hey, you got any more weed?
They are drug dealers.
Priest in a lab coat.
Yeah. I went to the University of Miami to deal with my issue, because I was just thrown, just so frustrated with this chronic inflammation, and everybody's like, "Oh, University of Miami, the cutting edge dermatology." No. I swear to you, the doctor comes in with the mask on and everything, and here I am expecting them to take my urine, my stool, my blood, everything. It's like, all right, let's put you on prednisone and get you on Dupixent. It's like he was the Pfizer salesman, for fucking crying out loud. It was like he wasn't even a doctor. I'm like, that's it? That's the answers you have here? It's.
I almost got arrested at the University of Miami with the vaccine police serving a subpoena for the travesties against the Rona, and they loved wearing their face diapers outside. They had face diaper police fucking on the University of Miami campground.
Daytona Beach?
Yeah.
No, Miami.
I knew some pharmaceutical reps 20 years ago, and they were all making $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
Playing golf and whining and dining doctors, just getting them peddling the big pharma drugs.
Well,
the lucrative.
The thing that most people don't realize is that the amount of money that is spent on big pharma direct to doctors is 7 times the amount that's spent direct to consumer. Which is crazy, because we are inundated as consumers, and so you just think how much of that the doctors are just getting, and
they're getting
Sam and I talked about this. They tailor make, they make sure that they send in the right torpedo, right? If it's a male doctor, guess who's getting the female pharma rep? Who's showing up with donuts and notepads.
And not showing up with donuts. I had a catering business in Cedar Sinai, and I was like, "Oh, you want to do lunch?" I'm like, "What do you want to do? Chicken parm, sausage, and peppers?" No, they wanted like the chicken saltimbocca and the frances. I'm like, that's the higher price point for lunch. Like, they didn't care. Bring us the good shit pasta. And I'm like, all right.
Oh man,
shakedown.
The hypocrisy. But it's not only it's materialism again, is whoring out your soul. People are all compromised, and that is what this bifurcation is about. That having humility, like just tapping into your own divinity, taking responsibility, taking accountability, realizing that your own fears and will, perpetuate your existence.
But on a positive note, I know in Florida, and this is a step in the right direction, Florida has removed all vaccines for
mandates. Yeah.
mandates in regards to the kids going to school. Because even in Massachusetts, like I've had some luck where I've used religious exemption forms for my kids not to have to get vaccinated. But in many states, they were removing that, and in Connecticut, they removed that.
Connecticut too. Yep.
Yeah, so it's
Oh
like,
yeah, California's just gone and said that we're just going to do our own thing, which is crazy because this is how they get you all the time, man. We all celebrate Florida having their own vaccine laws and all that. We're like, yeah, dude, yeah. Fuck yeah, don't do what the government tells you to do. And then here we got the government saying that you shouldn't be forced to take vaccines. And here California's like, nope, we're going to do our own thing. And it sucks.
And even if you get the medical freedom down in Florida, what they're going to have anti-BDS laws in the written code for what you can or can't say about Israel. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, listen, I'm kind of conflicted about this because of the whole situation with the ICE situation and Donald Trump sending the feds into, extra ICE agents into California, which I thought was awful. You know what I'm saying? Because as an Angelino, and we might think differently than this, Sam, but, my time living out there, we love the immigrant community out there. We think it's what makes us great. I had no business doing that. However, when it comes to the vaccine situation, what I think should be done, the federal government should abide by the Constitution. If somebody wants a religious exemption, they should be able to have a religious exemption. But if you live in California, California is going to make their own laws with their own situation. So
it's the my body, my body, my choice stay, except for when it comes to vax. And then it's they just throw that out the fucking door.
Religious exemption, right?
We left because of that, Sam. Yeah. In 2015, yep. I had a preschooler, and it's like, what are we doing? What we're doing is SB 277 got passed, and it was mandatory for public, private, whatever, anything from kindergarten all the way up. And I'm like, we're going to have to jump through hoops.
There was some crazy laws they were pushing that you could lie about it, and they would make a phony fucking record about that. You don't have to tell your parents about it.
Believe me, I would have done anything. I have no sort of line in the sand morally I wouldn't have crossed. I would have had fake documents, whatever. I don't give a shit.
It's your family.
But ultimately we said, let's move. Let's just not even start in a system that is clearly designed to destroy your child from birth.
Right.
As soon as your child gets in the education system, the California government school system, they are slated for destruction.
So how did you avoid the 24-hour the hepatitis shot? The shot that they give the babies.
Yeah. The Hep B.
I was with the baby as long as I could be with the baby, and our pediatrician said, we were with the pediatrician specifically because we were not doing any vaccines, and we had friends that had used this pediatrician specifically because of that, and they had
I bet those times are gone,
instructions.
though. When was this? What year was this?
This was 2011.
Ooh, yeah.
Feels like another world.
Yeah, exactly.
Another world. So like you got to make a calculation where you're going to plant your flag, and sometimes sometimes you can't move though, and sometimes you're just kind of stuck. And so what do? You're living under a tyranny who's trying to tell you like the audacity of the state of California, no less, a clownish, cartoonish, dystopian communist hellscape. California, by the way, I have an episode coming out soon, and in the title, it's "Welcome to California," and it's a nod to you, Miriam, because I stole that from you.
No, I say Chinafornia.
Well, look what they did to their one of their biggest industries, man. That Hollywood was a big moneymaker.
They killed them.
Whip that goose until it stopped laying the golden eggs. It lays golden eggs. Quick, kill it beat it until it leaves. And all of my friends in film and television, they left California, man, because they were over it.
I was there 23 years in LA.
You're one of the few people that I could say probably has the best shot on this call. What is your take on before anybody has to leave and while we have everybody on here? What is your take on assassination? Did you get skeptical? Because I just saw actually somebody who's been on the show before, also a friend of ours, Sean Stone, was just on the Piers Morgan show with his dad, Oliver Stone, and he said something that is so true. Sean's like, every assassination, they say it's a lone gunman, and every assassination, there's always more to the story. And he believes that this one's not any different. What was your take from somebody who's obviously fired guns and whatnot? Like, what was your initial take on it? And then as things have progressed, has it changed? Are you skeptical? Are you not skeptical? Do you think it could be done? Could it not be done?
Yeah, I became friends with Sean within the last couple of years. Nice guy. I happen to agree with him. And when I first saw this scenario, I was looking at it, and then as soon as they said, yeah, this young man fired the shot from up there on the top of the roof, I'm like, why wasn't that roof secured? It's close. You could have hit Charlie with a pistol from up there, literally, if you are good. And so why wasn't that denied to any public access for his security? And there's just a lot that didn't resonate with me. And then when Charlie's wife yesterday said there was no exit wound, I'm like, okay, I got to throw the bogus flag on the official story, because they're showing us a rifle that was 30-06. And folks, just not to get too graphic, but 30-06 has a casing on it about this long. That bullet's traveling just under 3,000 feet per second, just almost a 200 grain projectile, probably a 190 grain, something like that. It's a heavy round and it's booking. I mean, it's humming. It's things fast, and the damage is extensive. And out of respect for Charlie, I'll just say, if I shot a cantaloupe with a 30-06, there would be pieces from that cantaloupe that would go 30 feet on all directions.
100%.
And so there's an entry wound, but no exit wound. I'm sorry, that's not possible.
Yep.
If it's 30-06 and he's shot within 200 yards, there would be extensive damage. I mean, that's a dramatic shot. Now, I did see the cavitation, and I hate to talk about this because I was actually in a Bible study with Charlie for a short time about 3 years ago, and brilliant guy, and I believe he acted out of love. There's a lot of people that really hate him and all that kind of stuff. I think that's a big distortion. They're not really listening to him in context. But anyway, I hate to talk about it, but you can't help but miss when you watch it in slow motion, the cavitation of his body under the pressure that waved. So it looked like he got hit with a significant sized round, but I'm sorry, an entry wound on the side of the neck. Not only is there going to be an exit wound, but it's going to be massive. And it would be dramatic in that way. So I don't know what the deal is, but I don't believe that young man shot Charlie with that rifle and that there was no exit wound. So I don't believe the official story, and I'm sick and tired of the FBI telling us things that we all see aren't true.
I have a question.
And it's
I've
insulting.
not looked at all at the Charlie Kirk, but I did write a book on George Floyd operation. Is there any way that it's not Charlie? That it's just asking.
No, that's some deep stuff. That's that. Let's hold off on that part. Okay, let's not dive right into hoax stuff right off the bat.
What we starting with.
Okay, that's
according to everything
I
I've
not
seen.
looked at it at all. So
but let's get into this real quick. Just real quick. I can't stay long, but I just want to say that, like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if this kid's really in jail. If he is, it says to me that a kid is a patsy, because we've seen patsies over and over and over again, from even the Vegas shooting. The way they explain that makes no effing sense. And I put this out to everybody, and there's guys I love on the internet. Austin, whatever his name is, the plane disappearing dude, he went nuts on me on the internet, because I was like, I just can't believe anybody that's buying this narrative. That, I mean, whenever a high impact event happens, we always have to go, all right, let's hold off on believing what the feds are telling us and try to get some information real quick. It's shocking to me. There's no point of this whole investigation where they got anything right. And what we're really seeing right now is the introduction of AI into evidence now. They're submitting AI videos to us as evidence of a crime. This is insanity, dude. They're talking about that whole thing about him leaving the roof. There's talk about that's AI. That's insanity to me. Like, we're entering a realm in which, I mean, my father told me as a kid, don't believe anything of what you hear and half of what you see. Now it's like, don't believe anything you hear and anything you see. You got to do some deep dives on this stuff. But I mean, if this kid is arrested, let's just say I'm gonna meet Miriam halfway. If this kid is arrested, that means a kid's sitting in there for something that I don't think he's 100% uh behind caused. And that's very sad to me because we see what happens to patsies. And I think we should be very concerned about that.
Do you want to discuss too, as far as the lionizing of Charlie? Because I do have a little bit of a different point of view, and I think that it's very needed right now in this point to bring a constructive criticism of what Charlie kind of stood for. You know, I can't stand the people, you know, pissing on his grave and saying good riddance and all that stuff. And I think that's awful. Anytime anybody dies, I mean, I didn't even celebrate when Osama bin Laden was killed. But I mean, you know, I think personally, you know, once again, I don't think Charlie was awful, but I thought Charlie, and this is coming from somebody I would consider myself a leftist libertarian, a common sense leftist, whatever you want to call me, whatever you want to call my crew. I consider Charlie a person who manufactured consent for some of the worst biases on the right out there, on the populist right. You know what I'm saying? So to see him lionized, to see him kind of when Alex Jones says we have to put him up with MLK and, MLK and JFK, I think that's just a little bit over the top. You know what I'm saying? I would never say he deserved to die, but you know, I would definitely say that a lot of the stuff that Charlie Kirk said, you know, and then I felt that he was stepping out moderately, right? In other words, it wasn't something really big. I mean, when he would say stuff, you know, when he was coming around, first of all, if you're going to step out of line, that means you stepped in line to begin with, right? And that's something that people are not looking at. Well, if he stepped out of line, that means he once took the money and stepped in line. So if you're celebrating everything that Charlie said, you're celebrating something that was said by a snake oil salesman, right? And I don't want to kind of belittle him to this point and stuff like that, but a lot of the things he said, I thought was manufacturing consent for people's worst biases, whether he's talking about a black pilot, you know, in the DEI. When people say to you, oh, well, you know, if I see a black pilot and I think immediately DEI, and is he qualified? Well, I think there's something wrong with you if you're not also questioning the fact, did that white pilot get hired simply because he's white? You know what I'm saying? And I understand we have a situation that, you know, when it came to George Floyd, you know, it's so eloquently put in Miriam's book, how it was weaponized by a lot of people on the left to kind of push a color revolution. And now we see people on the right weaponizing what's going on. But I mean, I just say it all the time. I didn't agree with Charlie what he said in a lot of things. I mean, he aligned himself, not recently, towards the end, obviously, but he aligned himself with the same ideology as Mike Huckabee when he would, would refer to Palestine as Judea and Samaria. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he would wear ice hats at his event. You know, I mean, to me, it's just like, you know, I don't know why he's being kind of lifted up and lionized so much, but I did see it coming.
Well, George Floyd was lionized. I mean,
I didn't agree with that at all. I mean, I didn't think it was,
saint.
you know, it was like, yeah, they made George Floyd out to be a saint. And I was like, listen, George Floyd is not my Fred Hampton. He's not somebody that should be praised the way he is. But, you know, and obviously, like I said, I appreciate the fact that Charlie Kirk got in there and he played away games and talked to people about people who did disagree with him. Yeah, he did it with a lot of college kids that weren't really ready. You know what I'm saying? But he did at least do that. But the lionization of this guy for me is a little bit too much. And anytime I say anything about it, I sometimes get, you know, pushed down and beat up, you know, and I just kind of curious, Craig, because, you know, you knew the guy, whatnot, and you say how great he was, but isn't there something for what he said sometimes that, you know, it just wasn't the best things that he did say? You know,
Pasta, I try to listen to people and gain their perspective on it. And when I'm not saying everything Charlie said was right, because nothing that any human has said except for Jesus was all truth. Because that dude walked the perfect walk. I mean, there's nobody that can find fault with it. And he spoke truth, and it upset people sometimes that didn't want to hear it because it threatened their kingdom, you know. But he spoke it, and I imagine he spoke it in love. With Charlie, in every case that people are saying, well, he said this, and I'm like, let's go and look at it in context. What was the conversation really about? How was it going? And why did he say it in context? And it's not this demonized, horrific, you know, hateful thing. So I think when we all kind of take a couple wraps off and we look at someone on the other side, I do think context is really important, man. If we genuinely want to understand, listen to the whole segment of the conversation and just say, hey, look, I agree or don't agree, but at least understand what they really meant. Just like with Trump saying that the immigrants are all criminals and whatever. Well, in context, the greater segment of that, he was saying, well, they don't just send us their stellar citizens. They're opening, and because he knew his intel team was telling him, like, they're opening their prisons, they're sending us, they're dumping their dregs. So he was saying we're getting everybody, not just their stellar ones. We're also getting.
But in all fairness, Craig, he leads with that. That's just a caveat. And still to this day, the immigrants are booked at a far less rate than American citizens for crimes in America, because mostly they're sending workers. And the fact is, he never mentions the fact that we're in those countries, that we have 100 bases in Latin America, and it's not bases in those countries, it's an occupation. And that's never mentioned. So that was always my problem with Charlie and Donald Trump, is they don't mention the other side of the story. They just mention the American synthetic left Democrats, story where it's, let's just let everybody in, whatnot. And,
It's about division.
Hey, I love you guys. I gotta go. I gotta go take care of my kids. I love you guys.
Sam.
Love you, Sammy T.
Everybody. Bye.
Go Raiders.
Go Raiders.
Go Raiders.
It's about division, and people aren't taking context. Things are nuanced, and you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. And that's the problem, that people cannot wrap their minds around something from a detailed perspective, or they're just like, it's just hitting at their emotions. So this event is used, by the way, Charlie and George Floyd shared the same birthday, 20 years apart.
Yep, October 15th. Yep. Yeah, well, I think the cultural significance, the reason we're talking about it weeks on it, is obviously it was so graphic and horrific. Everybody saw it up close with the garden hose of blood coming out. It's just terrible, awful. But I think the bigger, broader conversation is just that it's red meat for the rights base, the kind of the way they use George Floyd by having the psychological operation on full display to stir up a color revolution with any kind of fomenting of civil war in our major cities. So I think that they're going to continue to keep using that, keep stoking it. And if you saw the way he turned his tune towards the end of his life, going on Megyn Kelly, the PBD clip that was circulating, all of this little fragments of evidence, he was clearly starting to change his tune, and they knew that he had a stranglehold, TPUSA, on that 30 and under base. People my age, I'm 31, with people that don't trust Israel. The right don't trust Israel. And that's really the last pillar to fall when it comes to propping up Israel in the way that we defend them.
Yeah. But he did say in those same sentence, and I'm so sorry to interrupt, Craig, but I just want to make sure too as well, because I really wish I can sit here and say that Charlie Kirk did represent an open-minded, open discussion, because I felt he represented that those biases on the right. He did say in that same sentence when he was talking on the Pat Patrick David, how do you say it? Whatever.
Patrick Bet David.
Patrick Bet David. He did say, we all know what happened on October 7th. It was the worst time since the Holocaust. He did say that still. And to me, it was like, okay, that's a fence-sitting argument over there right now. You're still saying that this is justified because of what happened on that day. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, the stepping out to me was somewhat moderate. It wasn't that full-fledged, all right, enough is enough. Israel needs to stop. We should cut their funding. And if you're sitting here and talk, I would think that Marjorie Taylor Greene would be more of a threat to Israel than Charlie Kirk was, by far.
But real quick, you could see the pivot when he had Tucker and Dave Smith on right before everything started to spiral.
But to me, it's not even relevant. Like, none of this is even relevant. The guy got shot. And if the equivalent of somebody from the left got shot like that, somebody who really just has opinions that people disagree with, I would be saying the same thing. Like, we shouldn't be using it for political reasons. We shouldn't all of a sudden dissect every wrong opinion we think that they had. I mean, if Jon Stewart or Bill Maher, God forbid, like on national TV got shot, I wouldn't be like, yeah, well, but Bill Maher, I didn't agree with him when he said no. It's like, okay, yeah, he has wrong opinions, but he has the right to have them. And like Craig said, like, gonna agree with, well, you shouldn't. I mean, if you think for yourself, like, you shouldn't agree with anybody all the time. So like, to me, like, everybody who's bringing up these disagreements they had with some of Charlie Kirk's opinions, like, I'm just like, okay, now's not the time to
But have we done that in the past? Because have we done that? Sorry, Ricky.
Here's-
Have we
here's
done that in the past that now we're all under scrutiny that one thing that we said is taken out of context or it's
Like my wife looked at me and she's like, "Well, you've been to protests and you have opinions online. Like, why couldn't that be you?" And I'm like, "You're right."
yeah, that's the whole point.
I'm like, I don't have a huge platform, but God forbid, like Sam's on Joe Rogan, he brings up the Union of Unwanted again, and this show freaking blows up. And then next thing you know, people are like, yeah, those guys say a lot of anti-vax things, or they say a lot of things, or whatever. And all of a sudden, we're getting death threats on a regular basis. Like, it could be anybody, and that's the thing that I think people are missing. Like the people who are like, well, and I'm like, I don't care what somebody says that I mean, I don't think Tommy Robinson is right on a lot of things. Guess what? He shouldn't be shot either. He should have the right to say. I mean, that's the whole point of freedom of speech is like to protect unpopular speech. And if I also like the fact that, like him or not, or agree with him or not, at least Charlie Kirk was open to the debate, which I think many people aren't. I think too many people do the violent thing instead of having the conversation. And to me, like the way we meet somewhere in the middle at some point, like if I disagree with my wife on something, like we might still, after the argument or after the debate, still agree to disagree, but I have a better understanding where
Right.
she came from. She has a better understanding where I came from. And that's how we progress as a
But
society.
that's also the energy behind something of wanting to come to a resolve as opposed to using this opportunity to just divide us, which is what it's supposed to be. It's just savagery, right? It's
That's
savagery.
exactly what I wanted to get at. I couldn't agree more. What I would like to see, because it seems like what Pasta was talking about with these people, you know, you see them say something, and it would be nice if they weren't just taken in sound bites, and they could relax and have a little bit more calm conversation.
Yeah.
And genuinely explore each other and try to understand each other. And then I think we would understand what makes people tick, you know, all kinds of public figures. If we had the luxury of having them have a relaxed conversation instead of, you know, like a prize fighter getting all prepped up and debate prep, okay, go get them and win, instead of the objective being to win the argument, if the objective was to understand, and then that's a conversation I would like to have between Donald Trump and someone he disagrees with.
But it's not about consciousness. It's all about ego and fucking power. So it's never going to happen. It's
there's some of us out here trying to do that. I'm scheduled to have a conversation with Owen Schroyer. And, you know, listen, I've been one from a guy on the left, right? When I showed up at Defeat the Mandates in DC, everybody introduced me. This is Pasta Jardula. He's a common sense leftist. There are some of us out there who are trying to have these conversations to have more understanding of what's going on. And, you know, like, once again, having conversations of what actually Charlie stood for or what he said and how they come off, that's one thing. The thing I can't stand is the way that people just went right into their corners when you hear people like Alex Jones immediately, we're in a war. This is a war. Charlie Kirk is a casualty of war. You know, Steve Bannon, the same thing. Jesse Waters, all these people over here.
Dude, they're
it's
actors. They're performing.
You see it, yes. Yeah. But you see people run with it, and that's the scary part right there.
The scary part is I'd like to know what you think about this, Pasta. Is the part of the lionizing a reaction to the celebration of this from the left? I mean, you're talking about these guys saying war, but they're celebrating and providing lists of who's next and all this on all these other platforms. Yeah. And I think this is backfired to whoever. I don't know who planned it or who did this, but I feel like it's backfiring. And I think the reason why he's also being lionized is because there is nobody like Charlie out there, right? There's nobody on either side of whatever spectrum that's been so peaceful, and he feels like he's had like the love in his heart. I mean, whether he was, funded by whoever, I don't know, but he was the one out there doing the debates. He's almost going to be the perfect martyr. He's going to be more powerful in death. I don't know if whoever planned this realized how big this was going to be, but this hit a lot of normal people really hard.
I posted something yesterday, and people's reaction was, some of them surprised me. It was all the people singing and worshiping just for a few minutes in the stadium yesterday. Beautiful. And Charlie's wife saying, I forgive. I think that confounds a lot of people who are angry. And there's so many people saying, yes, please, peace, let's have peace. Thank you. Yes, let's do forgive. What a beautiful moment. But then other people they're railing, they're seething against Donald Trump, who wasn't even in that clip. And I'm like, my God, for a moment at a memorial service, could you just recognize what this clip is and what this post is about? Beautiful expression of forgiveness
Yeah.
and worship to the
But
Creator.
that's again
But
the lowest of the consciousness, to be in the frequency of shame instead of going up to love and enlightenment. And then this is the whole attack of this species, is to keep us in prison. And forgiveness is very important for each and every one of us. It's not easy, but the heart, if you still have one left, is an organ to alchemize. And I know that they created this bioweapon to go after the heart, because you can't raise your frequency. That's why we're witnessing, like, this is a changing of the humanity. The species is changing before our eyes. It's not disputable.
And
And
Craig, when you look at the long list of lies that the mainstream cathedral, the narratives they've been shoving down our throats, it does feel like war. I felt like we've been at war.
it
In
does.
Canada, there's still like the lies are coming still fast and furious, and 50% of the people believe them. You can prove their lies, but nobody seems to give a shit. So it does feel like we're at war.
Yeah.
So
when you talk
guys
about
like
the
that
whole,
say that, it's like,
yeah. But when you talk about this whole Trump issue and the people, all those people in that stadium, Craig and Graham, I think what upsets a lot of people, and I'm talking about the synthetic Democratic Party left, but just like anybody, any independent voice out there that is disgusted and terrified for what we see on a daily basis in Gaza, the fact that they're going to be so upset about what's happening with Charlie Kirk, but then turn a blind eye to what's happening on the regular basis, with Donald Trump supporting this genocide going on. And people are frustrated about that, you know what I'm saying? And nobody wants to make the comparison to the state violence equating and equaling, pushing the individual violence. Just a couple days before Charlie Kirk's murder, Donald Trump murdered 11 fishermen in Venezuela and just said they were narco traffickers, and everybody was okay with that. You know what I'm saying? And nobody makes the comparison by the everyday state violence, that it's not equating to the actual individual violence that's happening. And that's something that we need to connect the dots with, because it's not okay.
Well,
To put to Miriam's point too, like if you can disconnect people on a mass scale from their consciousness too, they're completely desensitized to a mass scale of slaughtering their neighbors and their children. That's the problem.
Well, it's like
intent. It's the intent. It's the intent to dehumanize.
Yeah.
I mean, really, to have hate for someone else's death, like is savage, and it is departing into our lower level chakras, and that's the goal. I've said this before, if you hit the heart, everybody's in fear, like money, hedonism, and you're not going up into like speaking truth, seeing with your third eye, tapping into the divine, and by 2032 or whatever, that's why it's very important to go within and do our best to have forgiveness, and even not listen to all this. And I'm a journalist. I'm now resigned because I'm choosing to focus elsewhere.
Ricky, were you saying something?
Oh, I just want to say one quick point before Ricky or Craig took it back over. I just want to say, like, I've had maybe 24 friends in my personal life, anecdotally speaking, that told me that they're going back to church for the first time in 10 years this week. I mean, something is going on with this spiritual shift in response to this just indiscriminate killing, for sure. But go ahead.
No,
I was going to say the eclipse that just, sorry, Ricky, that just cosmically what's been happening, that they even, like astrologers who don't even follow, like I look for patterns, right? So all of these astrologers are saying turning point. It's a turning point. And it is, people are feeling something, whether they're conscious of it or not, but something is brewing. And maybe that's a good segue to Three Eye Atlas and District 9 that's up ahead.
Well, I'd say, I'm like, the unfortunate thing is that people aren't going to care as much about some random people that they don't have that hasn't been humanized because they haven't seen them on TV, they haven't seen interviews with them. Like, it's like Stalin said, it's tragic but true. It's just reality of things. Like, if one person dies, it's a tragedy. If a million people die, it's a statistic. You can't have a emotional connection to a million people or 1,000 people or even 100 people, but you can have emotional connection to this one celebrity, right? Why do you think you see so many people mourn when a celebrity dies that nobody really knows personally, but you feel like you know them personally because you've seen them on TV, you've seen interviews. So I think that's the thing about Charlie Kirk. A lot of people were connected to him. He was doing a lot of interviews. He was on TV.
Yeah.
You have this personal connection. Now, when you hear about some Venezuelan fishermen, like you're not going to have the same emotional connection, right? Like it's no different than like if somebody who coached me or a friend of mine passed away compared to somebody that I was a cousin of a cousin, right? That I didn't know. Like, of course, you're going to be a little bit more connected. Now, I do think that the reason why this story is so important, among other reasons that we've already mentioned, is the fact that I think it is highlighting the power that Mossad has over our government. I mean, I think people are now questioning, okay.
You think the Mossad did it? Is that what you're saying? Or
I mean, I'll throw out my theory. I mean, I think without a doubt, Mossad did it. I mean, that's my opinion. I think when you started to see his interviews, I mean, and there's a lot of people like Kim Iverson has some great videos on it. Candace Owens is going hard in the paint on this topic. You're Tim Dillon with the Max Blumenthal interview and talking about Bibi and him spying on the U.S. and spying on his allies and whatnot, and even getting caught putting spyware and stuff on on U.S. grounds or whatnot. And so you have all these things, and that almost makes more sense when you look at like, okay, there are clips going around of him questioning, was there a stand down call on October 7th? You see him get in trouble by Ackman and a bunch of donors because he had Dave Smith and Megyn Kelly and Tucker all on stage speaking out against what Israel was doing. And then he's threatened by Ackman and the funding. And you look at like the fact that a nuclear scientist in Iran doesn't live to see 30 because the snipers of Mossad are killing them all, and that's a true statistic. Like they're dying. Like every nuclear scientist is getting killed by Mossad in Iran. And you look at a long history of assassinations, and then you look at just like the Epstein thing. Ghislaine Maxwell, obviously her father was a Mossad spy. There's plenty of evidence to prove that. A lot of people believe it was a blackmail operation. It was used to control people at the highest power. And personally, when you look at like Trump's full 360 on many of these things, and really just historically, when you look at every politician, they could disagree on every single point, but the one point they always agree on is we must back Israel. I think the thing about Charlie Kirk was that he was there's a small group of people that are America first and America first always. And the majority of people are actually America first, unless we're talking about Israel. But he was one that seemed to be changing the psyche and actually saying like, hey, you know what? Like I'm pro-Israel, but I think, we have to draw a line somewhere where we're going too far and whatnot. And he's asking those questions. And like Alex said,
it was to shut him up then, or did it backfire?
I got something on
And
that.
then also to set an example.
Yeah.
public execution. I listen.
I got
do you
something,
think,
guys.
Yeah.
okay.
I'm very curious to see what everybody thinks, because I think the people who had the most to gain are Western elites, because this is so divisive. I knew people were going to get so emotional about this that I thought they had the most to gain. So, I'm skeptical that it was Israel alone. I don't know if they had a hand in it, and like I said, him stepping out, he had the one step in. I thought they were moderate steps out. There was nothing really too over the top. I mean, Epstein is a Mossad agent. I have a video that I did 7.5 years ago as a leftist talking about, the family Epstein and the Mossad connections. I don't think that anybody, was kind of hiding or holding that back. But I think the West, the elites in the West had the most to gain, because this is another one of those divisive issues. And where I pointed out Alex Jones, Steve Bannon, Jesse Waters, it's just like, you saw immediately that there were people who wanted a war and people who didn't want a civil war. So, I mean, I think that the most to gain are the Western elites.
No one's seen anything from Howard Lutnick since the Epstein story went out of the news too.
Well, and people forget Bibi. That he suppressed a film called the Bibi Files. Recently.
Yeah.
Okay, they were really close to a revolution in Israel. Just like in America, I always say like we have to remind foreigners, and I am a foreigner, but like other people who don't live in this country, that what the U.S. government doesn't represent the people,
Right.
and sometimes they do things that the people aren't happy about and aren't backing. Well, it's the same thing with Israel. Like, Bibi was doing all these things and he didn't represent the country. There was actually a split in the country. And even Charlie Kirk was talking about how, and others were talking about how there was, a lot of people who were upset and want him out of power. But before I go on another rant, Craig, I know you had some.
Yeah. So Charlie consumes a lot of information, right? He studies a lot, he travels a lot, he talks to a lot of people of influence from all directions, and his understanding was evolving like anybody does when you study a lot. And he began to decline funding from a group that he was, as his understanding was changing. And so someone in his inner circle, not a public figure, believes that it was a religious group that wanted to shut him down because he didn't feel comfortable carrying their narrative because his understanding was changing. And I think he was trying to be genuine and sincere. And as his beliefs, his understanding were changing, I think he's wanted to hold true to his beliefs and what he understood. And that seems like, according to the people closest to him, somebody wanted him to taken out of the mix because of that, which is pretty despicable. But
Well, Harrison Smith, who works at InfoWars,
Mhm.
early August that he's getting intel, or some people close to Charlie are saying that he's afraid for his life. And I don't think that was a coincidence. And if we've been around alternative media long enough, you eventually stop believing in coincidences, and you start believing that there's probably dots that you need to connect. And I mean, Craig, coming from somebody who you've done private security in the past, could something like this be accomplished? Because he did have private security. How hard would it be for a foreign government or something like that to get that close to him and pull something off like that?
it wouldn't be that hard. It looked like Charlie's team got him off the X. We call it the X, the zone where the threat is highest, there where the attack happens. They got him out of there pretty quick. It's a lot quicker than that team that got Trump off the stage in Pennsylvania, but that was a DEI team. But still, um, uh, there are simple things. As a sniper, I've got extensive sniper training, qualification, experience all over the world, several different agencies, multiple service branches. I got a lot of shooting. And have done high threat mobile security over in the war zones for the Department of State and the intelligence community. And I look for where I would be. If I had to hit this guy, where would I be? And you can go and deny them visual access of that stage or that podium or whatever, walkway or arrival zone, whatever. You can put screens up and different things like that. And you can have people block the rooftops. And there's a lot that you can do if you get there early and you have the manpower to go, um, you know, put those safety measures in place. And so why that wasn't done, I don't know. Charlie was really worried about, or his wife was especially worried about security. I heard she begged him not to go there that day.
Wow.
And
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she had a gut feeling. She's like, this isn't bad. I don't want you to go. And she says once he decides he's going to go, she can't stop him. So I don't know why the security wasn't better there, but in their defense, maybe there's only so much money and so much manpower available. But my gosh, some of that can be guarded against. So,
What were
as
your thoughts, Craig, on some of the hand signals to the left of the stage there?
I was just going to ask.
yeah, I looked at it and I realized I do that with my own hat. Just when I'm fiddling around, and it may, if you look at it back on video, it may like saw a man signaling for somebody's murder. I'm like, no, I'm just fidgeting. So I don't know. I think that I heard somebody mention the guy with the white hat that was doing that is a public figure and a very close friend of Charlie's, and it's like in my mind, no way, it's not possible.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of times when we're looking for something, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
And when you're looking for an assassin, everything looks like a bullet or a flash or muzzle flash or these kinds of things. And I celebrate people studying and looking because God knows we don't get the truth from the official narrative in our federal law enforcement agencies anymore. So I love that people are looking and that there are cameras everywhere so we can really start to find out what really happened in whatever situation. I celebrate that, but I think a lot of it is just people trying to find something. I don't think it could have been anything to Charlie's right or behind him because the wound was on the front of his neck
Yeah, but
That wouldn't
and
have
no
been the
entry
exit wound.
wound. So you can't get a bullet in here from the other side or from the
That couldn't
back.
have been the exit wound.
that's what I was
But there would have had to have been an entry wound.
Well, they said there was a ricochet off of his chest, correct?
No,
200
some
yards?
people said that, but
Yeah.
it was actually his mic cord that was going underneath his shirt.
Right.
So the wire, and you can see when his shirt bows up and it cavitates, it's the mic wire there. So I don't believe he had body armor on that day, even soft armor. I didn't see it, but one person said at one point in the light, when he turns a certain way, they could see his nipples, which are like, okay, that eliminates any possibility there being any significant armor in there, even lightweight pistol rated armor. So I think Charlie was shot. I think he's dead. It could have only come from the front or from the left,
Well,
somewhere
that boy
from
didn't
12
do it.
o'clock to 9 o'clock. That shot had to approach him.
Craig,
Period.
it's not possible that it could, because I mean we haven't obviously seen the autopsy. I mean they keep talking about things that we haven't seen yet, like the bullets and all this.
Yeah.
Is it possible that? And then you look at the video that they haven't released yet. Candace is actually in the process of trying to get a hold of that camera that was behind him that the guy has the video of, and she's
Yeah.
trying to get him to release it to the public. But
But
like
is it possible what?
that may, because I've seen shots usually when you see that much violence, it's the exit wound, right? It's not usually
Yes.
right.
The exit wounds are going to be many times dependent on the velocity of the round. Typically, when it's really at high rate of speed, the projectile, there's a lot of energy, so it'll open up inside that soft tissue, or if it hits bone, the projectile will expand and then it's going to tear a much larger permanent wound cavity, and an exit wound will be massive in some cases, very dramatic. So were you going to say, is it possible that he was shot from the rear and that front was a smaller exit wound? Is that what you were
Yeah,
asking? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
because is the
That's what I was saying.
is the
I think it is possible, but and I agree with you, we've already seen it, the man killed. We've seen it, thousands of times on video. Let's look at the autopsy and understand what happened to one of our citizens who was executed, no matter who did it, right? The man was killed there in public. I think we've seen him killed, so we deserve to see or understand the truth about what was happening. Because look at what they did with the JFK autopsy. We know there was all kinds of buffoonery involved in that, the Warren Commission and all that.
then they found the bullet
Yeah, it's just like, come on, man.
and then they
So
didn't.
I would like to know for sure.
Could that film beat the Zapruder film, right? You look at it like for years
It's a
and
good
years,
thought.
they told you on the media that, you got it went, back his head, and then come to find out, the Zapruder film highlighted what actually happened, or at least a closer idea of what really happened, and they weren't showing you that video on purpose because they were trying to force feed you a narrative. I'm curious if maybe we would see something else from the back. Again, so if that was the entry wound, where's the bullet? Would the bullet be in
Right.
him?
Right. Well, it couldn't be a very high velocity round. So what it sounded like to me was a smaller rifle round, a high pitched crack, a kind of a crack, a bigger, like a 30-06 is more of a boom. There's a deeper tone to it because it's more powder burning. It's a bigger explosion. It is. And so they don't sound the same. You hear the two, one shot after the other, you're like, oh, okay, radically different. And so it sounded like a high pitched 223 or 556 round. It's what our military carry with their short little fighting rifles now. That round was designed initially for varmint, and it got a long chain of events, got it into our military. But anyway, it has a high pitched crack, supersonic crack to it. And that's what it sounds like in the audio. But that's a high velocity round. That's 2,700 feet per second. So it's still pretty fast. So it breaks the speed of sound, and it inside of 200 yards, that would have definitely had an exit wound on the neck as well. Now, chest cavity, maybe not. So might it have been uh, a softer load where they took some of the powder out of it to make it quieter. If they were shooting it through a suppressor, but it was still supersonic, you'd still get that crack sound. And so I would expect that it was probably a small caliber rifle round fired from the front somewhere to where his 10 o'clock direction from his body. So towards stage left. And probably a lighter load, custom load. Otherwise, there would have been an exit wound. Because otherwise, I mean, for it to go in and then not come out of the neck, that's got to be a low energy round. So
Unless he's
I
the
just
man of steel.
nothing else makes sense. A
Would that be
pistol round would have
considered
sounded like a pop,
would that
pop,
be a
pop.
specialized kind of shot to hit somebody in that manner, in that location,
that
from that
spot.
distance? Would that be something that that would require somebody who's extremely skilled to do, or could any dipshit with a gun do that?
Well, I mean, to use your words, any dipshit with a gun probably could have done that if he could get the rifle stable and if the rifle was carefully sighted in, calibrated.
Okay.
Inside of 200 yards, he can hit, a 4-inch target. I suspect they were probably aiming for a headshot and got him on the neck.
And did it look normal to you for what you would expect to see if somebody got shot from in the front with you're saying not a 30-06, that's incompatible with what the evidence shows, but maybe a smaller caliber one. It does look normal to what it would look like. That's what an entry because see, like, we don't know what it would look like in real life. We've just been watching Hollywood movies and blood explodes or anything, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe it looks exactly like that. I mean, is that a normal looking entry wound?
To me, for a 30-06 entry wound inside of 200 yards, yes. The only thing that confounds me about that is I would have expected a massive exit wound out the back.
Right.
And since there was no exit wound, that begs a whole list of questions. And if there's no other wound in the back, then nobody could have shot him from the rear and have this be an exit wound. But we won't know unless we have access to the information. So
did anybody see them remove that camera above him after? Like,
it looked funny.
So Candace actually found out, she did a little investigating and she actually found out who that guy was. She ended up hitting up a turning point, and what she did was she started asking questions, like asking people like, hey, do you recognize this guy? Like, because she's done a lot of work with Charlie. She knows a lot of people who work there. So she started asking like, hey, do you know, she ended up getting his name, contacting him directly, and he won't release the film. And what he was saying was that he wanted to get to the film, but it was a crime scene. So this whole thing, there's a lot of like things that I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to believe. Like, is he telling the truth? Like, did he really contaminate a crime scene and mess up a crime scene to get to this video before the feds did? Because that's what he's claiming he did. But or was he working for somebody and he was getting it to make sure nobody else got it, including the feds, because they wanted to cover it up. So apparently she's in, and I don't know, she's releasing a podcast tonight, and I'm sure all week. So maybe she'll expand on this story. But according to what she was saying, she couldn't get him to release the video, and she's in the process of trying to convince him to do it, because she said something similar to what Craig said. We've already seen the most violent part of the video. The backside can't be any worse than the front side. So it's not like you need to protect the public or the loved ones or whatever, but it might answer some questions that people have.
Yeah. And to be fair, if I were in that guy's situation and I were totally innocent just working there, I'd want to get the footage before the feds as well, before they start monkeying with it. So I don't think there's anything inherently nefarious about wanting to get access to that before the feds do, because we know what they will do once they get it. They'll make it look however they want. So to control that is actually probably a smart move. If there's And then now you've got to make a calculation too when you've got this information, because now you get that situation where you say either you never show anybody and you never talk about it ever again, or you put it all out, dump it all out completely and let the public see it. But if he gets into that middle ground where he starts threatening that maybe I'm going to show it and maybe I'm not, that's a really good way to get yourself killed.
Yeah.
So I hope the guy who's got this footage is taking precautions in decentralizing his risk at this moment.
I just wish they would, it's so crazy how many documentaries there are with like tapes of serial killers being interviewed. But in all these assassinations, we don't know shit about the shooter. You look at the healthcare guy, right? The whatever his name,
Brian Thompson,
Mario Luigi, whatever it's.
Oh, Mangione, yeah, excuse me.
Yeah, whatever. He, like he didn't have that health insurance. He didn't have any loved one close to him that like was denied, and yet like we're just told a story and we move on from it. It was used for obviously political reasons, like all these tragedies unfortunately are. And it's like, okay, well, why not interview him and see what his motive is? Like, and then you look at the Trump assassin, same thing, like no online history at all. I mean, not even a MySpace. I mean, this guy had nothing, and it's
There's
like
a possibility.
Yeah.
And in investigating child trafficking, we are interviewing hundreds of satanic ritual abuse survivors, and the MK programming, the abuse done to them, to split them and program them to get them to do whatever the practitioner, whatever the abusers want them to do, is horrific. But that programming is stunningly effective.
Oh yeah.
And if
And
you've ever studied Sirhan, not Sirhan, yeah, it was Sirhan that tried to murder RFK, right? He says he doesn't even remember being there. Well, if he was a split multiple, that would make sense, because his frontal mind's not going to recognize what his other personalities did unless someone knows how to get him to switch and can interview that different personality. Then you'd probably find out all of it. So might these people, like a lot of people suspect, be MK victims who are programmed and sent to go carry out these events because they can't even remember what they did when they're in an alternate personality, let alone testify about it.
This is the thing I think we're not talking about too, as well as there's another caveat to that too, as well, is that a lot of these people who commit these mass shootings, they're on SSRIs, right? And you don't even need to MK Ultra them now. With obviously having the keys to the kingdom, the watching on the back end, AI can start flagging some stuff, hand it off to an agent, and an agent can just push these people to go do that thing, and it's already done for them. And the work has been done by Big Pharma. So it's just like,
yeah, and you only need to go black for what, 15 seconds for them to be for you to be a political pawn in a mass shooting or something. So,
well, Zirhan actually passed the lie detector test. He doesn't remember, and Robert Kennedy Jr. doesn't believe he's the one who killed his father. Audio recognition has analyzed the audio, and more shots were fired in that room than there were bullets in his gun. Without a doubt, I think that Manchurian candidates, the MK Ultra, like all these things are real. And this was, I mean, you're talking about things in the 60s. We only know about it because, finally, some stuff got declassified. Who knows what never got declassified? The Unabomber was linked to MK Ultra. Whitey Bulger is linked to MK Ultra. I mean, there's so many people linked to MK Ultra that it's insane. I mean, Charlie Manson, right? The book Chaos, everybody talks about it. I look at this guy, George Zinn, right? The guy who was basically decoy. It seems like he was a decoy. This guy was at September 11th or telling stories about September 11th. He was at like the Boston bombing. And then this guy just gets arrested for child porn just like days ago. And so it's like, what is going on with this guy, and why, again, like how many coincidences before you realize like, okay, this can't be a coincidence. There's something really weird about this guy's story.
How many killers have to wind up getting caught in a McDonald's, like the Parkland guy?
Yeah.
Or the Mangione guy, right? Like
That makes
when your mission is complete, go back to the McDonald's. It's got to be in their programming. Well, there's going to be a McDonald's wherever they are.
It's funny that you say that because Derek worked his first job because he graduated as a cook, not a cop, and his first job is with McDonald's. And I tried to speak to someone that worked there, and there was no one. I didn't make that link until you said.
Well, Charlie, was your interview with Ole Demigar, I think it was, with all the predictive programming tools and the background information?
Yeah, shoes and bicycles.
Yep.
Keep your eyes on that. You start to see messaging in that. My biggest fear of this whole thing is that we ask the question and we say, well, who could have been involved in Charlie's murder, and was it this group or was it that group? Who had motive and opportunity? And we get involved in trying to figure out who that is. And I think we should, of course. But meanwhile, while this is going on, they're selling some narrative about a trans shooter problem that we've got, right? That's been happening for a while. And what do we get? We get Antifa designated as a terrorist organization. And this is terrifying, because it's tempting to want to cheer because we know that they're awful and that they are like the epitome of a domestic terrorist cell. But the legalizing of this term is a huge problem for me, because, the Democrats are going to get into office at some point. And if you don't think that they're going to use this tool to designate the Independent Media Alliance or the Union of the Unwanted or insert name there as a terrorist cell,
domestic terrorist
operating on the homeland, on the battlefield, and next thing you know, you have no rights under the Patriot Act, and you're getting black bagged and taken away to God knows where, and you don't have access to an attorney because you started talking out about this. So I think it's I think the right who is watching Antifa get this label put on them by their guy, it's tempting to be cheerleading this, but please think about second order effects of this, like where this is going to go and how Gavin, ask yourself, would you want Gavin Newsom to have this power? Because he may get it, right, at some point. Right. And if the answer is hell no, this guy would be the worst person with it. Don't say you want Trump to have it either, because what's done to Antifa will be done to the Proud Boys or whatever it is, man. Whoever the anti-vaxxers, big blanket term.
The Bureau's been looking at patriot groups more, and soccer moms, or not soccer moms, but soccer moms who
PTA moms
ask tough questions at school board meetings about why their children are being groomed.
It's
She's being called a domestic terrorism.
Any divergence. You don't have to be a public figure. They target their torture specifically. It's your own.
That's the nice thing about domestic terrorism. It's such a broad term that it can literally be whatever they decide it is. And that's the problem, is who's the decider. And if the decider is a really dangerous person, which is all of them, I got news for you, then it's going to be weaponized and used against us at some point. And so it's illegals, biometrics for illegals. Yeah, let's get those illegals out. And then it's biometrics on you.
Exactly.
Yes, yep.
Yeah. Due process is necessary for illegals, if that's what you want to call them, because once they do it to them, they'll do it to
exactly. You have to be ideologically consistent across all of this. It's not just free speech that you want to hear. It's that you allow this leftist lunatic to scream their thoughts, and because that's what free speech is about, hearing the stuff that you don't want to hear as well. And as long as you're ideologically consistent across all of it, then you're good, right? It's when you just want it for your side, then people go, see, it's them. It's those conservatives, or it's those whatever, they just want it for themselves. So you have to, as long as you do that, I think people find you to be reasonable, right? As long as you're consistent.
First principles. That's it.
Yeah. The radical left needs to be silenced and shut down.
Here's a solution. Instead of designating Antifa or any of those terrorist organizations just investigate and go after the money, the people that are funding them and putting them up to burning down our cities. I mean,
Yeah.
we know Soros and some of these people are involved, but my frustration is, why are all these big people who are funding the destabilization of our nation not being brought to account? I'm like, is anybody going to enforce our laws and protect us? Because it seems like the answer is no.
And it screams of a Fed operation too, because if you look at those text transcripts, it just seems like it's red meat during the frustration of the right to focus on the trans portion of the shooter's partner. But in reality, there's much more going on when you look into those text threads that things don't add up at all.
They never do.
No,
I would like to say that on April 28th, the Nanotech king, Charles Lieber, was hired in China as a top professor. So for anyone who doesn't know, Charles Lieber, good old Charlie, is who I call the Nanotech king, who's responsible for the Neuralink. And after all of that, he was arrested as a spy, and under the Trump regime, there was the China initiative. And then when Joey came into power, they archived the whole Department of Justice, the whole initiative, as if it didn't exist. And in the end, this guy just was served 2 days in jail and is now back in action.
Crime does pay when you work for the empire.
Yeah.
Right. Let's wrap this thing up. I appreciate you guys all making time to come out and talk to us about this. It's a polarizing time. It's a very emotional time. I mean, America saw somebody that I think one of, not just witnessing that murder with our own eyes, which is a form of trauma, but then also getting the secondary effect of recognizing there was a mask off moment with a large segment of the population that you saw unveil themselves as pretty disgusting human beings, free to say whatever they want to say. To be clear, but just shitty of them. And you go, oh, there you are. Okay. So it's been quite a week. And thanks for coming out, Miriam. Since ladies first, let's start with you. Where can people find you? Where can people get the George Floyd book that Pasta has in his hand?
You can find Operation George Floyd if you want to know how the sausage is made, learn how the playbook works. Then you could find it on Amazon, although I'm not on Amazon, but the book is Operation George Floyd. You can come to Miriam Hinane /George Floyd, and you could watch my show Fridays at 3:00 live on Rumble, Truth Lives Here, and follow my work on miriamhinane.substack.
There's nobody better in the George Floyd field.
I'll
put you up against anybody, Miriam. You really are, God, if you get on somebody's case, it's over for them. You're going to get to the bottom of it. We always know that. Pasta, what's going on? I'm glad to hear that you're making strides towards getting your health back. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year. We're hitting the crossroads again. I learned so much too as well, and I've also went through this whole episode of my mother having a stroke and having to move back to Florida and dealing with the health industry. It's just ridiculous. As I'm sitting there arguing with Humana on trying to get my mom into acute therapy, the next day, Chris Thompson was shot. And it was just so kind of surreal to me seeing that and understanding what goes on. The whole system is a quagmire. I'm very blessed and lucky to have Miriam. Honey Colony, go to it if you want to get some products out there, clean, good products. I have a lot of our products here that I use on a regular basis. But, I'm at that point right now. I'm crossing the Rubicon. So hopefully, because I'm like a lion in the cage. I have a different lease on life. And if I come out of this whole situation, it was the first time in my life where I had no control of it. This had control of me and I couldn't get it under wraps. You can see the weight I've lost. I've been following, a strict diet, also given to me by Miriam. Very important, but what you put into your system is going to really uh, it's going to bring to fruition the result you're going to have in life as far as your health. So eat clean food, do what you have to do. I'm still been rocking, I do the Truth Wire, which was the Convo Couch. We kind of switched up to try to get our monetization back. It didn't work. I still have my Pasta to Go channel, but the thing I love to do, and I did have to take a little time off, but I've been still rocking it, is every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, I do the show on WBAI New York. It's a call-in show where people get to call in and we just talk about the topics of the day. It really is one of the most fun things I've ever done. So check it on out. You can go to my whatchamacallit, at YoPasta. And I'll give you all the links to follow all my stuff. And thank you, Charlie and Ricky and Sammy T. I know he's not here and Mike wasn't here for allowing me to come to the Union of the Unwanted family. It was a great discussion today.
Oh, thanks for coming. We're glad to have you. Live radio's a trip, man. There's nothing like that. I did that for a year with TNT.
Especially when we open up the lines to hear people, you'd be amazed. There's some leftists out there. It's crazy because Pacifica is mainly a leftist channel. But, I preach outside the two-party duopoly. One of the most interesting calls, really quickly, and I'll wrap it up, is a lady called in and we were talking about feminism, and we weren't talking about pro-life versus pro-choice. We were talking about unwanted pregnancies, and she had this whole opinion about it. And then she finished up with talking, did you ever hear about chemtrails? So I think a lot of our work here on Union of the Unwanted is really getting out there. And it's a shame, too, that the show that Charlie Kirk, I think it was like 300 million views he got on it, was called Surrounded. They had an episode, we went out there, and it was 9/11 an inside job. And specifically this group right here, the Union Unwanted, I'm like, I hope I make my people proud. I did a little studying with Jason Burmis before I got out there, but it looks like they're not going to air the episode. That sucks. But, I think you'd be surprised, guys, and this information that we talk about here on this show, especially with the type of rhetoric and the narratives that we bring to the table. We have you're a lovable person, Charlie, so are you, Rick. And I think when you talk about these things in a kind format and you open the door and you just respect what people have to say, you can really create some fucking yardage out there and get your point across.
Yeah. Craig, before you drop, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can support your outstanding work with children.
Yeah, thanks everybody. vets4childrescue.org or v4cr.org. Thanks, guys. Great chat.
Thanks, Craig. Great to see you again. As always, we're happy to have you here. And Pasta. Good. I'm glad you seem better. You seem. I'm glad you're on the upward trajectory. Yeah.
Well, Charlie, we gotta wait because it's and once again, I'm very fortunate to have Miriam on my side.
Yeah.
Because you go to these doctors and I'm like, how do I get off this prednisone? Their fucking idea, the West, is to go on a bio, and that's an immune suppressant. That's going to suppress my immune system, and that's their only answer. I don't want to take these things.
I gave him another answer.
I'm very fortunate to have Miriam.
Yeah, that's you. Thank you for your opinion. We are entitled to get a second opinion, maybe a third opinion. We'll talk to some of our crazy conspiracy theorist people like Tim James, who saved his life by changing his diet, or Christian Yordanev, who can open the hood and look inside and figure out what's going on and say, you need to change that thing right there you're super low in, and never in a million years would you know that. But they can pin. We've got access to fantastic resources. Nobody needs to be sick from this. There's solutions to your problem, Pasta, and I'm glad that you're on the right track, man. And I want people to. Look. There's a lot of this shit that we cannot control, right? Charlie Kirk stuff we've been talking about all night. A lot of it, we're viewers, consumers, whatever. But our health, we can control that. We actually can. So this is one of those things where it's like, if you want to feel like, oh, black pill doomer, whatever. No, like we're about like solutions. We wouldn't bring health people on and talk about health like we have so many times at Ricky's Book the Show if we weren't about solutions, And health is one of those things that, like, once you recognize there's a problem, you can fix it. Honey Colony, fantastic resource for that. Miriam knows so much about what actually gets you healthy. It's just an untapped resource. So anyway, I'm glad you guys are all talking. I'm glad that there's progress there.
Never would have
Alex,
met her if I didn't come
Beautiful.
on your show. So thank you guys.
well, and Miriam and I have had the pleasure of hanging out on multiple occasions in real life in Acapulco, Mexico, and I encourage people to go to these live events as well. And I go on and on about this because once you have these connections, and of course, Pasta we've met too, it becomes real to you. Miriam's a real person with and a fantastic resource that you can actually also use as well, right, Miriam?
Absolutely.
You're still
doing
working with
consults.
people.
I'm doing consults. I've now tapped into doing soul purpose consults. So I'm mixing the health with people who want to go deeper within. They're getting a calling, like
Cool.
like Alex said, going to church, but people want to turn in if they're not looking into religion. So, and I invite everyone to come to Mexico in February, Puerto Vallarta. Yes.
Yeah.
I hope I get an invite to that.
Next year will be my first in Acapulco, so I'm excited.
Oh, fantastic.
Let's hook up, Alex. We'll go together. We'll go as a team, me and you. Give us a booth, Charlie.
By the way, an Acapulco 2026 will be in Puerto Vallarta, which makes it a whole hell of a lot easier to get to, easier and cheaper. It's a third of the price and a third of the time.
Charlie, hold on a second. Miriam, can we have the fried lobsters there in Puerto Vallarta? Will you allow us to have the fried lobsters? Or are you going to be the food Nazi?
Oh, Pasta, my man.
No,
what if we get it in tallow? Fried lobster in tallow.
There's some very good ceviche.
All right, we'll do
ceviche. Yep.
We're gonna have a lot to explore. It's always a great time. It expands and scales nicely. I think Jeff said he is expecting it to be about 3 times the size that it was this last year, which will be which is great, man. I mean, I hope a lot of people come out there. It's such a good vibe. People are so nice. Alex, where can people find you?
Real quick plug. Instagram, AB Raniello, local artist here up in Connecticut. I do also regularly co-guest on Pardon Will Live. It's a libertarian talk show with my buddy. We just shoot the shit on culture war stuff. David Lilly, I want to give him a shout out. And Yards After the Catch podcast. It's my group show. We just talk sports. We try to disconnect from the horrors of the world. So do a lot of lighthearted stuff, but I want to just say that all you guys do amazing work. I always plug you guys when I do Libertarian Party stuff here in Connecticut, and keep spreading the word. Keep fighting the good fight.
And he's the artist who painted this.
Yes.
Right here.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. Just saw Sam a couple months ago here in Connecticut, so he was awesome. Hung out with Mark Steves, Richard Grove, the whole crew, Robbie the Fire.
I know. I was
nice.
Make it. It did we had a wedding that day, and I was I was trying to negotiate, trying to do both, and my wife's like, if we're late to the wedding, I'm gonna kill you.
No, it was a great time. You were missed sorely this year, but next
Rich
year.
messed me because Rich is like, he's like, oh, I'm finally going to one. And he's like, I'll see you there. And I'm like, no, I can't make it. And he's like, dude. And it seems like it's for people who are listening. It's Opera Broadbrook
Opera House. Yeah, it's like his residency now at this point.
Yeah. So
and real quick, a little internal baseball before we go. Sean the Booker, I got him connected with MDE over at Sam Hyde's studio in Rhode Island. So hopefully they'll start coming here too as well.
Nice. Yeah. So if you're in the Connecticut, Massachusetts area, it seems like Eddie and Sam and XG, it's every maybe once or twice a year you can catch them here. Mm-hmm. And typically I'm there the last couple times they've been there. I've been there. That's how me and Alex met. Get to go on stage, meet a bunch of listeners and whatnot. So it's really fun to connect with people. And I'm sure you experience that Pasta, Miriam, and Charlie have and actually going out there and meeting listeners and people in the world. I mean, I definitely think as awesome as Zoom and technology is and has made this awesome experience of all being able to hang out with a bunch of friends every other Monday and live streaming on YouTube. I'm sure hanging out with them and everybody in person is much more fun.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that's why I made sure to go do tinfoil hat in studio when I was in LA.
Nice.
a couple
It makes
weeks
a
ago.
difference.
Yeah.
It does.
Go hang out with the
I get to
boys.
see pasta.
That's nice.
Right?
That's awesome.
Graham Dunlop from Grimerica was on the call. He had to drop off. Go to grimerica.com or .ca, one of those things. Adultbrain.ca. I know that. You get your audiobooks over there. They're nice enough to do the audiobooks for my Octopus of Global Control and Hypocrisy. So go get those if you're interested in audiobooks. Ricky, what do you have going on?
The rippleeffectpodcast.com with I've been busy. I've been unfortunately like just super busy with like just sports and family stuff, and then just a bunch of like personal stuff, not to get into all of it because I'm sure nobody cares, but it's just
Just busy. Yeah.
just busy. And I am looking to start ramping up the Ripple Effect podcast episodes very soon.
I want to get back on.
Yeah, could come back on. I mean, I've been trying to just I get in this thing where like I'm like obsessed with getting new and like unique people on, so I'm like constantly like looking for like those really unique voices and perspectives that maybe nobody's heard about or
He
whatnot.
doesn't want us anymore, Pasta.
I'm not
Let's
saying
talk
that.
sports. The Mets are melting down here. We got to talk about that. Yeah.
I understand, Ricky.
But it is one of those things where like I just been it's so typically I can find the free time to really like look into getting these guests or whatnot, because it does require a lot of time sometimes trying to find a pathway to connecting with people and whatnot. But actually Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell, who's on my podcast not too long ago, was just on Sean Ryan's podcast, which is pretty cool. So that's an example of somebody that I got on before she became kind of a household name. She's from the telepathy tapes, but not many interviews with her previously. So it's fun to get those. But I will, like I said, I am gonna start reaching out to some regulars and some new people. I've just been really busy in regards to that, and I always feel really guilty, because I'm sure somebody cares that episodes aren't coming out. I'm sure. I'm sure somebody is.
People care, man. You've been putting that show out for a very long time. People have become, you've been sort of like the voice in their head for a decade, right?
Yeah.
How long?
Wife doesn't enjoy it, so hopefully.
I can't win them all.
She does. She loves
It's
you.
all right,
Love
yeah.
each other.
Well,
but yeah.
Also, let's make sure samtripoli.com if
Yeah.
you guys want to go see Sam when he's on tour. He tours a lot. Dude works a ton.
He now
Does he come to Florida?
He does come to Florida. He linked his show to his website, so he did us a favor, hoping to get a little bit of extra traffic and get everybody who's on the show a little extra exposure. Now, when the show is uploaded on YouTube channel, soon after it's on his website, so people.
That's awesome.
Nice. Yeah. Well, good.
He was down there for Bro Grove too recently.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yep. With the NDS guys. Yep.
He was indeed. So catch Tinfoil Hat wherever you get podcasts, and to Midnight Mike, OBDM, the funniest podcast in the world. Still, after all these years, it's amazing. I was watching it. I was listening to OBDM today while I was mowing my lawn.
She's got to get Joe back.
He's got to get Joe back, but Joe's booked. Joe's got a lot of work. He's a lot of projects, which is fine. I'm good. I want Joe to be working. Anyway, we're happy for Midnight Mike. Catch Doom Scrolling, which is a side project of Midnight Mike and Sam Tripoli. Go catch that. It's a fun show. And macroaggressions.io for me. I've got episode with Alexandra from Just the Inserts, where we talked about how to decipher and how to read some of the very complicated sciencey language surrounding not just vaccines, but also over-the-counter pharmaceuticals and what you need to know about that and how they trick you, and labels that they use for foods and how they change the wording and all of that. So it's a lot to know. And if you're somebody who's interested in that, especially if you're a parent, you need to get clear on that. So go find the Macroaggressions episode about that. And Activist Post, activistpost.com. Go. Are you getting your news there? You should be, because I'm just like, I'm pulling 10 articles a day from amazing independent journalists who are writing about things that actually matter when it's dangerous, as Sam Tripoli would say. So, bookmark Activist Post if you like it on mobile. I didn't build an app. That's cool, though, because I didn't centralize control into the hands of those tech scumbags. So you're just going to have to open up a browser and do it that way. So it's easy to do. Get your news there. It'd be like living in the future. Anything else, Ricky?
I think that's it for now. Yeah. I mean, follow us on all the places you can get podcasts. Every other week that we don't do a show, we put out a flashback episode. Usually just, it's some cool old show that I think might be relevant and to share with some new listeners. So definitely check that out. And I think that's it. Thank you, everybody, from the bottom of my heart for always joining us.
Thanks, guys.
When we throw you links at the last second, you're always willing to show up and whatnot. So we really, really appreciate it, because obviously we would talk to our AI companion, which would be much fun if you guys weren't here. So
by the way, Ricky, can I just let everybody know that I am going to be in Texas, El Paso on October 17th, 18th, I believe, and the 19th for the Third Eye Carnival. I'm actually going to be the bartender for this particular event. Last time I did the food. So if you want to come see me out there, Texas, El Paso,
Dates
I'll
again?
be slanging some drinks, making some mezcal palomas and some of my sangria and some fun stuff out there. So I just want to mention
what month?
well.
October?
October 17th, I believe. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you said you were slinging what?
Slanging drinks this time.
Kidding. I was going to say slinging.
Slanging, not slinging, right? You're not slinging, slanging. I don't know. So.
I'm from another country. These are all new words to me. Well, thanks, guys. Hey, and I'll send you guys links to the show once it's up and live. Feel free to post it and upload it and wherever you guys want. And we'll talk again, I'm sure.